Hello, my name's Ed Little. I'm a Learning and Engagement Assistant at the Amelia. In this career talk, I'll be explaining first a little bit about the Amelia, what it is, what it will be doing when it opens, and then I'll be handing over to the team at the Amelia, who will explain a little bit about their roles, and finally we'll finish off with some tips for getting into the arts, heritage and culture sector. So, what is the Amelia? It is Tunbridge Wells' new and exciting cultural and learning space, which will bring together books, objects, documents, photographs and visual art, and will be housed in a vibrant and revitalised building. The picture on the left shows the former Tunbridge Wells Museum, Art Gallery and Library building. The picture on the right is the Adult Education Centre, both situated in the centre of Tunbridge Wells. Having received funding from the Arts Council England, the National Lottery Heritage Fund, Kent County Council and Tunbridge Wells Borough Council, the new Amelia will comprise of the former Tunbridge Wells Museum and Art Gallery and Library building and the former Adult Education Centre. Here, pictured is an artist impression of what the buildings will look like combined with this new section in the middle with the atrium and a large, quite beautiful road-facing glass there. So, what is the Amelia still? It will comprise of several different services. First one will be the Gateway, the council's front-facing customer-based service. The Gateway is somewhere that residents may go to if they have a problem about paying a bill, housing, or any other local related problems where they want to speak with a member of the council. The Amelia will also comprise of the Adult Education Centre. Museum and Art Gallery will, of course, be part of the Amelia. Library services and tourist information. So these 5 different services will be combined as one as the Amelia. Here's a fantastic aerial shot, another artist impression of what the Amelia will look like. Again, you can see how the buildings have been joined by this central atrium part there, and there's also been an extension on the back of the former Tunbridge Wells Museum building. It will create this fantastic courtyard, which will be a fantastic resource for the centre of Tunbridge Wells, the residents and people who live and work there. There will also be, spread throughout the building, 7 new artwork commissions, such as a water fountain, a brick artwork, and a visitor resource point. So who was Amelia? Why named after someone called Amelia? Well, Amelia Scott, pictured here, was a local councillor, prominent local suffragist who campaigned for women's votes. She also worked on behalf of local mothers campaigning for their rights, and she was very supportive of a museum and library opening in Tunbridge Wells, which she eventually got to see, and she actually opened the original museum in Tunbridge Wells. So, another artist impression here shows a little bit of the sort of flavour of what you might expect when you enter the Amelia. You've got some objects displayed there in a nice case. You've got books. You've got people milling around doing different things. Maybe going to the Gateway, passing through to go to their class at the Adult Education, having a look at a book, newspaper, meeting a friend, or looking at the objects on display. The Amelia has around 60,000 objects in the collection. I thought it might be quite nice to have a quick flick through some of the highlights. A beautiful pair of Georgian shoes. An artwork by George Smart, a local artist who lived in Frant in the 19th century. A piece of Tunbridge ware. This was a local craft made in Tunbridge Wells and sold as souvenirs. Slightly older here. Some arrowheads found locally. Minnie the Lulu Terrier, one of our star attractions. So it's a taxidermied dog there in a beautiful Tunbridge ware display case. So she must have been extremely loved by her owners. And Sabuccio, one of the more famous creations out of Tunbridge Wells, a tabletop football game where you use your finger to flick the players around and score goals. Here's another artist impression of inside the atrium. As you can see, there's some objects on display, there's some books there, people having a look around. And again here, a final artist illustration. You can see out through to the courtyard, a member of staff there just off the centre to the right, getting ready to answer a question, how may I help you? So it's worth remembering, as I said, that the Amelia will comprise of lots of different services in one building. You might go there to meet a friend, look at a piece of art, sit in the courtyard, maybe sign up to an adult education class. research some history using the extensive archives at the Amelia, pay a council tax bill, visit the library, attend an adult education class, visit an exhibition, quiet study, borrow a book perhaps, register a birth or a death, look at objects in the collection, attend a talk or another event, access a computer, maybe print out something, learn about local tourism, get a replacement hearing aid battery, that's something that often goes on at Gateway, seek advice from Gateway, print a document, fill up your water bottle, volunteer your time as part of several different projects that take place at the Amelia, meet as part of a local group, baby rhyme time for example, or read. I hope you'll agree that the Amelia looks like a really interesting, exciting and engaging place to visit, and we look forward to welcoming you when it opens in spring 2022. Now, let's hear from some members of the Amelia team to hear about what their job roles are and what they get up to.
My name is Anna Spender and I'm the Collections and Assets Manager for the Amelia. The main focus of my role is around the documentation, access, care and development of our collections, but it also includes planning exhibitions and displays and delivering public programming linked to our artefacts. I'm currently working on the interpretation design for the new Amelia, which is due to open in 2022. So this includes the design of the new displays, script writing for information panels, and managing the content for our new interactives. I wanted to create a sense of fun, discovery and adventure for our visitors, so spent quite a lot of time choosing objects that very much focus on the personal stories of the people of Tunbridge Wells, but also include some of our little known histories that you may find quite surprising.
Hello, I'm Ian Beavis and I'm the research curator in the Amelia team. My role involves being responsible for what I call the knowledge base that underlies all that we do. That's to say, knowledge of the museum collections and of the history and natural history of Tunbridge Wells and the surrounding High Weald area. So in practice, my role may include researching and writing interpretation for displays and exhibitions and publications. It may involve answering inquiries from members of the public about specialist topics. It may involve helping researchers to make use of the museum and archive collections. It may include giving specialist advice to other departments within the council, for example, the planning team on historic buildings or the parks team on heritage assets or habitat management for wildlife, and also advice to various outside bodies as well. And then there are giving talks and guided walks on particular topics to local groups or on the Amelia's public programme. So one particular project that I've been engaged in over the last few months is writing interpretation for the new display galleries in the Amelia. This has been involved researching and getting into bullet point form information on the different topics that we're going to be dealing with, and then passing them on to our script writers to put into standard format and then checking the end result.
Hi everyone, my name's Heather Stracey and I'm the Collections, Archives and Local Studies Officer for the Amelia, which used to be called Tunbridge Wells Museum and Art Gallery. So a little bit about my job. So as you can probably tell from my job title, I have a real range of roles. So collections wise, I assist the Collections and Assets Manager and the Research Creator on things like exhibitions. I also am responsible for the documentation of objects that come in and out of the museum. So for example, donations and loans. Archive wise, I supervise volunteers working on conservation projects. So just before lockdown, we were working on dusting our minute books and covering them with protective covering. And then local studies wise, I supervise volunteers on digitisation projects. So soon we're going to be starting a digitisation project where we're going to be photographing our natural history collection. And apart from that, I do bits and bobs. So I do a bit of cataloguing, I work on oral history projects, and that's me.
My name is Jeremy Kimmel. I'm the culture manager as part of the Amelia project. Basically, that means I manage the collections, I manage the program, and the staff that deal with all of that. So I do most of the sort of strategic management for the kind of functioning of what an arts and heritage organization does. Day to day, that's kind of all over the place, really. Being a manager has all the kind of usual manager stuff that goes with it. Making sure that your teams have everything that they need to do their jobs, and making sure that they're happy in their jobs, as well as making sure that all the projects going on as part of the sort of new arts and culture center that we're helping build, making sure everything stays on schedule, stays on budget, is doing what it's supposed to do, as well as dealing with a lot of the big overarching strategy around how we're going to do things now and for the next 5 to 10 years. And right now it involves sitting on a lot of design panels, picking colors of walls and naming rooms and that kind of thing. So right now I'm currently working on, again, mostly kind of strategy stuff. So there's some guidance to do with public art for the Borough Council that we're finalising some work on. And again, writing a lot of strategy and policy and all of those sorts of things that seem really boring, but when you don't have them, you kind of just wind up doing whatever and firing off in lots of different directions, and then none of it makes sense and it's just really expensive, and then your museum closes, so it's kind of important. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Hello, my name's Julie Hawksworth and I am the Visitor Services Manager at the Amelia. My job is all about visitor experience. It's making sure that every person that comes into contact with the Amelia team, with the services and with the building when it opens has a really great time, feels inspired and most importantly feels really welcome. At the moment, because the building isn't open, my team and I are busy working on lots of content for both our digital provision, which is seeing us through this interim period of the building being closed and the pandemic, but also getting ready for the new programme of events that will be launched when the building is open. So we're working on lots of ideas for education, for schools, for families, for adults, for everybody. My job is also very much about linking up the collections team and the engagement team, so making sure that all of the brilliant research and collections work that my curatorial colleagues do links in with the programming, and that when visitors come in they can physically access the building well, and that they can intellectually access the building well, so that basically everybody comes in, has what they need on site in terms of facilities, but also enjoys what they're looking at and seeing and getting involved with. I also work closely with the curatorial team to develop content, so contributing to ideas and development of exhibitions, both online and physically, and working hard across the partners that we have with the Amelia, both the library and adult education centres, to make sure that the visitor experience is at the heart of everything that we do. I have a fashion history and art history background, so I'm obsessed with history and making sure that it's fun and exciting and accessible for everybody. And I do hope that you come and visit the Amelia when it's open.
Hi, I'm Claire and I'm a Learning and Engagement Assistant at the Amelia. I'm very new here. I only started, well, not quite a month ago. So I've been spending a lot of time looking at all the objects in our collection, seeing the stories they tell, how these link to our local area, so that I'm ready to share some of these stories with our audiences. Now, for me, my first audience is primary schools. I'm developing the learning programme. So pre-pandemic, while the building is being constructed, I would have been going out doing outreach, which means leading object handling sessions within schools, so taking objects from our collections for pupils to explore. Now, of course, I'm finding ways to do all this remotely and digitally. At the moment, I'm starting by creating some short films which pupils can use during homeschooling. So they're tied to the national curriculum, so teachers can be confident to use them to support learning. Of course, I'm also including fun activities, things to take pupils away from the screen as well, so that they can still get a hands-on experience. For example, I might send them to look for an object or something and then relate it to something within the collection. The next stage will be delivering remote live sessions. That will be when pupils are back in school. And eventually, when we have our building, I'll look forward to welcoming schools on site to deliver our sessions there.
Hello, I'm Ed Little. I'm a learning and engagement assistant at the Amelia. My job's all about telling stories about the objects in our collection, telling stories about the town and borough of Tunbridge Wells, and generally getting people interested and engaged with the stories and the histories of Tunbridge Wells and the objects that are in the collection of the Amelia. In some normal times, I'd be working lots on events, so there are family fun days where families and friends can come and feel objects from our collection and get a real sort of hands-on experience of history and the local area. We also do a series of talks and things like that, really trying to get the public and the local people of Tunbridge Wells engaged with all the things that are in the Amelia's collection. At the moment, that's not very possible. So we're doing online learning. We're creating resources for schools. We're creating resources for families to do together during half term. And some of that's craft. Some of that's watching a video. Some of that's going out and doing things, trails within the town. So it's quite a varied role. At the moment, I'm working on a new video about toys in the collection of the Amelia, and I'm also working with a group of young people who are part of a young consultants group, and they give the Amelia feedback about certain things, but we also help them to do a project. So last year, for example, we did Amelia Asks, and the young people invited creative practitioners from the culture industries to do an online talk. So I was helping with that.
Hello, I'm Luke Currell. I'm a Cultural Projects Manager at Tunbridge Wells Borough Council. My main duties are the administration and planning of artist commissions, and that's in the town, in the borough, and with our museum partners and institutions across Kent. An exciting project I'm currently working on is the 7 permanent artist commissions that will form part of the new Amelia Scott building in the town.
Hello, I'm Polly Hockner. I'm one of the Cultural Projects Managers for Tunbridge Wells Borough Council. I manage cultural projects in the borough. But what is a cultural project? Well, I'll give you a quick example. The planning department, when they're negotiating planning agreements with developers for things like large housing estates, will negotiate extra payments from the developer for things like pedestrian crossings or roads, but also for public art. And so I will come in and commission an artist to create a piece of public art that would then be installed on that development. So that's one of the things that I do. At the moment, I'm working on cultural provision for the Amelia, the new cultural building for the borough. I've been working on commissioning 7 artists to create artwork that will be permanently in the Amelia Scott building. So things like a drinking fountain for the courtyard, modular furniture, some lighting, some decorative gates, that kind of thing. But I've also been thinking about what kind of services will be provided for artists in that space to help them further their careers. So what skills and experience does a cultural projects manager need? Well, definitely curatorial and exhibition experience and interpretation, project management, artist commissioning is definitely a must, arts strategy understanding and experience of fundraising and audience development work. And lastly, I just wanted to say, why are cultural projects important? Well, having cultural projects happening in the borough make it a more attractive place to live and work. They encourage people to visit the borough, which then contributes to the economy of the borough. And finally, cultural projects contribute to the well-being of everybody taking part in them. So that's a great thing. Thank you.
I asked my colleagues at the Amelia their advice, their top tips for getting into the arts, culture and heritage sector. Something that came up that was really important was volunteering. Volunteer as much as you can. You get a real feel for the sheer amount of roles that there are available to you in the heritage and culture industry by volunteering. You can also gain valuable experience volunteering in other sectors such as fundraising. Everything will contribute to getting into the arts and culture and heritage sector by volunteering your time. It's also very fun. Similar to volunteering is work experience. Getting really relevant work experience can sometimes be a bit tricky, but it is absolutely fantastic for your CV and your personal statement if you can talk about work experience that you've gained. Perhaps it's an internship or working in a museum or archive for a few weeks over the summer. Take a relevant higher education course. It must be said that this is not essential for all jobs in the culture and heritage sector. However, certain roles will require a certain education, a certain experience on a certain course. Certain jobs will need a specific degree for a very specific job role, such as working in archives or object care roles. If you're not sure, and it's quite a difficult decision to make sometimes, try to keep your options as open as possible, and perhaps consider a more general course like history, history of art, English literature, or an art and design course where you can get to try out lots of different things. Stay versatile. It is very tricky sometimes to make a decision about what you want to do with your life. However, try to stay open to new experiences and new opportunities. For example, Claire, learning and engagement assistant at the Amelia, started off in teaching and performance. She wasn't sure about what she wanted to do, but she had an opportunity to deliver an education workshop at a heritage site and she got hooked. And myself, for example, I studied fine art painting and gained experience working with artists and galleries before working at the Amelia. So it is always possible to change routes. Keep up to date with the sector. Follow your favourite organisations on social media. Sign up to mailing lists. Attend conferences and events. Attend exhibitions. Start to get a feel for how exhibitions are displayed and how individual organisations are run. This will vary greatly. Start to form your own ideas and perspectives. Perhaps you thought an exhibition was bad. Perhaps you thought it was excellent. Think about why and think about what you'd do differently. This is all great things to tell people in interviews, write on personal statements, and for your personal growth. Follow job sites. Like many industries, there are specific job sites for the culture and heritage and arts. Job sites such as GEM, the University of Leicester Jobs Desk, Arts Jobs. These will all have jobs that might not even be listed in other places. Thank you for your time and for your interest in the Amelia. I hope that our advice has been interesting and useful to you. If you have any further questions, we would be delighted to speak with you. Email us at this address.